against all advice, I did work full-time during my first 3 years of studying medicine at university. And although I'm not going to get into whether that was the best decision in the world in this video today, as you can imagine, it did mean that when it came to completing university projects, I didn't always have the luxury of time. So whether I liked it or not, I did have to come up with systems to do things fastly, efficiently, and without procrastinating. Now, although I definitely do not condone leaving things to the last minute, I do agree that systems do make things that are not so enjoyable be a lot more efficient and therefore fun. Today, I wanted to share the exact system that I used to write good university essays in under 3 hours by doing a full walkthrough of an essay with you here. So I have my computer in front of me and let's get started. So first things first, I am going to be using Notion. This is because it is literally the best app in the world. I have a whole second brain on it. If you want to check that out, there's a video somewhere if you're into that. But basically, Notion is free, it's clean, it's effective, it's absolutely, in my opinion, the best app for students. Now, you can probably use this system with something else, but I'm going to be doing my walkthrough in Notion. I'll break down every single step in a way that should hopefully be easy to replicate. So let's say our essay title is The Importance of Teaching Skills in Medical Professional Practice. This is an essay I had to write last year. The first thing I'm going to do is create a database page on Notion. Now, this sounds really complicated. All it really is a table, so it's quite easy to work with. Now, the reason I do this is because I absolutely hate writing essays top to bottom. I actually write them left to right, and I'm going to explain how this happens. I think it's a hugely heavy lift to write a full essay, so I kind of break it up into very many small bits. The first breakup that I will do is obviously an introduction, body, and conclusion, because we have to start, write, and wrap up our essay. Now, there's an extra step that I do here that I feel is very important. I feel an easy way that people lose points with their essays is not looking at the marking scheme. And no matter how elaborate, beautiful, how many amazing points you make, and how many great quotes that you use in your essay, if you are not ticking all of the criteria in the marking points, you are obviously going to lose a lot of marks. And on the flip side, if you tick every single point in the marking scheme, even if you haven't written an amazing essay, you are guaranteed a pass or even a really good mark. So I go to the marking scheme and make sure I do all of them. Sometimes I have essays which don't have such a delicate marking scheme, and in this case I will have to come up with it myself. Okay, what do I think this professor would like to assess me on? And I put those points in the body. This should take about 5 to 10 minutes depending on if you are copy pasting these from somewhere else or if I'm just spending a few minutes kind of trying to come up with them myself. I don't spend a lot of time on this part. Step number 2 is when we start to branch out a bit. So I'll be thinking about the introduction itself. This is where I set the scene for the essay. The way that I imagine introductions is like I'm having a conversation with someone who's in front of me who does not know the title of my essay, and I'm not allowed to say the title of my essay, but I can talk about whatever. So I just kind of set the context in a way that I try to make the person ask the question, which is the title of the essay itself. If that makes any sense, and if you can wrap your mind around that. So in this case, I think I'm going to start by writing why it's important for a doctor to be a teacher, and that's going to be my first paragraph. And my second paragraph is going to talk about why I'm writing this essay at all and kind of the experiences that I did. And I think this would be fine for the introduction. Now, within the body, I'm going to go to every single assessment point and create an aim for every single paragraph. And some of these assessment points won't stand on paragraphs as their own, so I'll just kind of remove them. Some of them I might want to merge together, but for every single one, I'm going to see if they can stand as a future paragraph. So for the conclusion, I do the exact same thing. I think I want to end this essay by talking about the wider context of higher education and its implications for professional medical practice. Then I'm also going to talk about somehow how this experience has changed me. This column 2 is now done, and this should take about 20 minutes, I think, to kind of make these points and clean these things up. It's only about 10 sentences that I'm actually writing, but it does take a bit of thinking time. Step number 3 is where we start to have fun. For every single aim I created, I'm going to make a central core argument for each paragraph. I think where essays don't look very good is where paragraphs are quite wishy-washy, and when I read them, I'm not sure what they're saying or what point they are trying to make. So trying to approach it from the other way around, where you make the central point of the paragraph first and then you build the paragraph, ensures that everything that you're writing has a central aim and is very coherent and logical. So for every single aim, and this can be either the marking criteria or it can be the things that I put in the introduction and conclusion, I am going to make one single argument. And these arguments don't all have to come from my brain. Very often I like using quotes here, I like using studies, I like using using kind of experiences of my own. So it can be very different things. I cheat on this point because I have a second brain. So I have all of these quotes and studies in one place already. So I've had to double the time that it takes me to do this in this 3-hour estimation. For example, if I want to talk about the importance of being a doctor in medicine, I like this Richard Feynman quote, which says, "A young man doesn't realize how much time it takes to prepare good lectures for the first time, especially." It kind of talks about how students or people who haven't taught before don't appreciate how difficult and important education is. And therefore, I think this is a quote for someone famous. It is written well, and it also makes a good point. So I'm going to be using this quote as my central argument for my first paragraph. And I'll do the same thing for every single other paragraph. I spend a lot of time on PubMed here trying to find studies that have findings or explorations which are relevant to the points that I want to make in my study. And very importantly here, I'll also add another column with the sources. So for every single quote or every single study, I will have the full source of it so I can use it in my kind of resources in the end of my essay. So for me, this takes maximum half an hour, but I can see how it can take up to an hour. So at this point, we have done 1.5 hours of our essay writing already. And this is where we get to step number 4. And this is the only time where I actually start writing the words of my essay. And why I find this system works so well is because if I were to start from scratch, I would have to write kind of a whole essay based on nothing. But because I have all of these kind of rows done, what that means is that it's kind of like I have someone who's just prepared most of my essay for me already, and I don't have to write a full essay. All I have to write is paragraphs based on a single argument, which is very easy to do. So for example, for the introduction itself, if I said, I want to talk about why education in medicine is important, using this quote from Richard Feynman, that actually becomes a very easy paragraph to write. It's only going to be a few sentences of me kind of elaborating on this aim that I've already made. And I've done the same thing everywhere. So for example, I'm talking about the importance of using imagery in education based on the fact that there's this study that found that using images improves learning so much. All I need to do is just elaborate on that and add some extra words and verbs and sentences. It's not actually very hard to do. This honestly for me makes writing endlessly easier, and this part usually takes me about an hour maximum to do. And when I am finally done with this, I feel super relieved. All I do is take all the paragraphs that I've written, which are the actual essay content, and I put them together. But at this point, I'm kind of blind to the essay. I have the same thing when I'm working for something for a long time. So when I finish a painting, I can't actually see it normally, and when I finish an essay, I can't actually see the essay because I'm too used to the words. So I kind of need to take a break, and a few hours of this will do, but a few days is absolutely perfect depending on how last minute this task has been left to be. So I'll kind of step away from my essay and I'll only come back to it later and give it another half an hour where I read through it, make sure everything makes sense. I might rearrange things, delete or add some sentences here and there, and make sure it is all coherent. All my sources are already listed, so I can just copy and paste those too. And yep, that is 3 hours of work and a full essay done, which has all of the marking criteria sorted. It has all the resources there already. It's kind of creative because it has a bunch of extra quotes and kind of fun things in it. It is structured well. Every single paragraph is making a point which is tied to the aim of the essay itself. So yeah, it's kind of hard to go wrong using this method. So beyond the essay itself, this is actually a very special video for me because it is my first Notion sponsorship and I am endlessly grateful for them. I knew doing this video that I wanted to do something related to education because even though I have my completely over-the-top uses for Notion, actually it's just the best thing for students to use in general, and I thought that if I were to make a Notion video, it would have to be for students. So yeah, here it is. I hope this made sense to anyone else. I'll be going back to university next year, so I will definitely be needing any tips for essay writing and for studying. So if you have anything to share, please feel free to do so in the comments. If you haven't already signed up for Notion, I'd be very surprised, but there will be a link in my description which will give you free access to the app. But otherwise, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Be kind to yourself and others, and don't believe everything you think, and loads of luck with your essays in university. Bye!